boxes again. We've got two bearings here, which is the coupling rod and the connecting rod. We've then got the slide for the valve. There's a pocket on the bearing at the top, and there's a cup at the bottom bearing. We then move forward and we've got the slide bar cup, and then we line the wheels up and we can put the oil can through the hole, 3 good squirts, and that gets oil onto the bearings inside. And then the last things to do is just do the axle boxes on the tender. And that's the general oiling up done. The final oiling that we need to do is to put some oil into the steam oil tank. Now, oil doesn't normally mix with water, but this is special oil that is designed to be with high pressure steam, and it will actually lubricate the inside of the cylinders. This locomotive has a tank behind the front buffer beam, which we access here, and it has a large tank suspended in here. We lift the lid up and we can see that the oil level has gone down about ½ an inch, about 12 to 15 mil. This locomotive, with the amount of oil left there, would still be carrying on for another 2 or 3 full working days, but we always err on the side of caution. We've got the oil, we can get to it, let's fill it up. And so we'll just top that up to the top. The part you can see in the oil is the actual mechanical pump, and there's a ratchet wheel on the side, and that's operated by the motion of the locomotive. So as that works, it operates the pump and oil goes to both cylinders. And as you might be able to see, that oil is very gloopy, very thick, and it needs the heat and the steam to actually help it flow and dissolve. So that's the tank filled up. Make sure we put the top down so there's no muck getting in there, and this, just to cover it up, has this cover plate that slides back into place, and we've got a couple of thumb screws that hold that down. Like a lot of things like this, we don't need to have that tightened up with a spanner. If you do it finger tight, that's plenty. So the next thing to do now is to actually get the locomotive into steam, and so we'll look at lighting some paraffin soaked wood in the bottom of the fire, and as that takes, we'll then start putting some coal on top and progressively bring the engine up to pressure. Go. Okay, we're now going to look at steaming the engine up, and as I was saying earlier on, when the locomotive's working, the steam drawing the fire through the chimney, but when you start the fire there is no steam to do that, so we give it a helping hand, and we've got this old, very old car heater blower. What that's going to do, that's going to draw the air up the chimney and blow it out, and when we light the fire, that will allow the fire to develop and the air will flow through the fire, and then it will build up heat. And once the steam starts to be created, we can take this off and the locomotive can put its own fire. So that's now throwing air out of there, and it's getting its air from the chimney, and it's actually pulling it all the way through from the fire. What we've got here is wood that's been soaked in paraffin. And you can see just from the way the flames are going, the flames are being pulled into the fire. So we throw a few pieces of wood in there which have all been soaked in paraffin. So you can actually see that fire now is roaring, and that's that fan on the front pulling that through. Now why have you got that fire pulling like that? We've got a few pieces of coal on top. And anybody that's got an old style coal fire at home or can remember them, this is exactly what you used to do. You used the newspaper to start with the wood, and then slowly you put coal on top. And we've just cheated a little bit. We're using that fan to pull the air through, and a bit of paraffin in the wood so that it's lit quickly. So we'll leave that for a little while. And you can hear the roaring now. It's pulling it through just a couple of air vents at the top, plus the grate is open underneath to get the air in. We also now close all the valves up, because each valve has been left open over the winter. But if you leave them closed, as the thing contracts with the cold, the spindles then bind in and actually do damage. So they've been left open over the winter. We need to close them all now, because as we produce steam, if we leave them open, we're just going to let the steam escape. And now it's a waiting game. Let the fire build up and the heat build up. Okay, we've now had the fire alight for a few minutes. You can hear the drone of the fan in the background. You can see on the clock we've now got, it's on the second division, which is 20 pounds a square inch, and obviously the target is 90, but once it gets to 20 to 30, the steam pressure can start pulling the fire up on its own. The fire now, you can see that the coal's burning, the flames are being drawn by that fan. So we'll just start by opening the blower. If I shut the door now, and you can hear the sound now from the engine is the steam blowing through the chimney and causing the draft in the fire. So the engine now is self-generating its own heat. The fire now is still continuing to pick up, so we'll just keep topping it up with coal. And you can see already it's above 20. It'll drop back a little bit while it transfers from the electric fan to the steam, but nevertheless the steam is still creating that airflow and giving us the build up in the temperature of the fire.